Hello everyone, and welcome to the next edition of the Holland Land Office Museum's Artifact Video Series. My name is Ryan Duffy, and I'm the director of the museum. And this week we're going to talk about important military figures here in Genesee County's history, and ones that received the highest recognition you can from the armed forces. But we're going to focus on soldiers from one particular conflict, the Civil War, and those from Genesee County that ended up receiving the Medal of Honor for their bravery during the war. Now, the one you might know most is Charles Rand, but we're not going to talk really about him because we did a video about him way back in the beginning, so we'll include a link so you can go check out his video in total and look at his Medal of Honor. We're going to talk about three other gentlemen with ties to Genesee County who ended up receiving the Medal of Honor. They are James Cross, Leroy Williams, and George Rainey, and we're going to delve into their histories, where they came from, and how they received their Medal of Honor during the Civil War. James Cross was born in Darien on March 27, 1840. He joined the 12th New York Volunteer Infantry Regiment in 1861, the same unit as Charles Rand, and their first action occurred at Blackburn's Ford on July 18, 1861, as part of the larger First Battle of Bull Run. During the battle, his unit came under heavy fire, and many of the inexperienced troops of the unit soon fell back in great disorder. However, men like Charles Rand and James Cross left their company and continued to fight on with other units that were still fighting until a general retreat was ordered. Cross was with Rand, and it was described as holding his ground, trying to cover the retreat of the battalion which had been forced to retire under the heavy fire from massed batteries at Blackburn's Ford. Both men would receive the Medal of Honor for their bravery that day. Cross's citation reads, "With a companion, he refused to retreat when the part of the regiment to which he was attached was driven back in disorder, but remained upon the skirmish line for some time thereafter, firing upon the enemy." Cross would be seriously wounded at Gaines Mills, where he would actually lose full use of his right arm and hand, and he would eventually be transferred to a military hospital in Washington. However, he came back into the Army and served as a clerk in the quartermaster's department. And he would be awarded his Medal of Honor as a corporal on April 5, 1898. And James Cross died in Albany on January 6, 1917. The next individual is Leroy Williams. He was born in Oswego, New York on August 18, 1845. He served as a sergeant in the 8th New York Heavy Artillery and actually enlisted in Batavia, so his Genesee County connection. He fought with the unit throughout the war, but gained special recognition for his heroics at the Battle of Cold Harbor. Sergeant Williams led a small detail to retrieve the body of the regiment's fallen commander, Colonel Peter Porter, after their failed attack on June 3, 1864. He first scouted the position of Porter's body while under fire from enemy sharpshooters, then crawled through no man's land very near the enemy lines with a detail of 4 other men to help drag the body back to the Union lines. The situation was so precarious that they actually had to get a rope to tie around Porter's body so that they could drag him back while being under fire. Sergeant Williams would receive the Medal of Honor for his bravery that day, and he would actually receive the medal on April 1st, 1898. Leroy Williams died in Cleveland, Ohio on February 14, 1930, but would end up being buried in Niagara Falls. The last individual we'll discuss is George Rainey, who was born in Batavia on June 3, 1839. However, the family would move to Michigan sometime before the Civil War, and he would enter service into the Army at Grand Rapids, Michigan. He served in several different medical roles in the Army, and actually would be captured in 1863 and held prisoner in Libby Prison in Richmond until he was released in a prisoner exchange. He started as a private hospital steward, then an assistant surgeon, and eventually the surgeon of the 2nd Michigan Cav. And in the latter years of the war, he was finally promoted to the surgeon of the whole Cavalry Corps. He would earn his Medal of Honor during the Battle of Resaca, Georgia on May 14, 1864. Then Assistant Surgeon George Rainey went into no man's land between the two forces to carry back a wounded comrade, Private Charles Baker. Rainey retrieved Baker with the help of an orderly and was able to bring him back to Union lines, all while under fire. After the war, George Rainey went on to be one of the founders of the Michigan State Medical Society in 1866, as well as serving on the Michigan State Board of Registration of Medicine and as the State Inspector of Communicable Diseases. He would receive his Medal of Honor on April 21st, 1901, and he would die on November 10th, 1915, and is buried in Lansing, Michigan. Well, I hope you enjoyed this edition of our Artifact video series and learned a little bit more about some of the military heroes of Genesee County and those lesser-known soldiers who did extraordinary things during the Civil War and ended up receiving the Medal of Honor for their bravery. In case you've missed any of our previous videos, be sure to go check them out on our YouTube channel, Holland Land Office Museum, and you can scroll through the entire playlist. We're over 100 videos now, so there's plenty of material to check out, as well as other things on our channel besides the Artifact video series. But as always, the best way to come and learn more about the local history of Genesee County and the things we talk about in these videos is to stop by the museum in person, and we'll be happy to share even more information, more than what's included in these short videos. So thank you for watching, and we hope to see you next week.